guys? Tambo here with your weekly core report. Water is wet and RPS members are shipping as usual. Our NBA content has been on fire since the beginning of the season. I kicked off the week by shipping a WFBBC seat on FanDuel using a low-owned Isaiah Livers recommended on the premium Final Countdown show.
I hope he comes off the bench because I know for a fact they love this kid. They're going to give him run no matter what. They're probably going to push him, and he's $3,100.
Our premium content comes through big time, whether it's our up to lock shows, heat maps, core plays, or playbook. Join us today so you can start shipping too. I wasn't the only one shipping a seat last week. Our guy Locks secured a DraftKings NBA Live Final seat as well. AP's core plays from Sunday helped a bunch of members win too. Junior hit for $3,000, while Nick's story shipped for over $15K. Steve Boynton used our core plays and playbook to make a late swap that won him $3,000 in NBA. And Punisher used the NBA heat map to ship $100,000 on DraftKings. As always, subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the like button on this video as well. Keep the good mojo going. Our NFL dominance continued into week 8 as well with some big wins. D-Hops shipped for $4K on FanDuel. EJOCam won $5K. And Dirty Deeds 30 hit for $7,500. Some of our best screenshots aren't necessarily the huge scores. Bankroll building is a big part of becoming successful, and we love to see the good ROI hits too. Cusplove illustrated this perfectly, turning $2 into $800, while Wes turned $18 into $2,500 on DraftKings, and Jalapeno turned $198 into a monster $77K. His Great Pizza brought the great mojo in Cincinnati. Congrats again to all our members. If you want to be featured in the core report, drop your winning lineup in the Members Never Win channel in our premium Discord. If you're not a member, join now. You won't find a better value with all sports included for one low price. Remember, if you're not winning with us, you're watching us win. Until next time, let's keep running pure.
What's going on, everyone? AP over here at Run Pure Sports, bringing to you, like we do every Thursday, the lineup building show with our partner Sabersim. I'm here with my guy Jordan. Jordan, what's going on, my man? How is your week going?
It's good. Flying by. Excited to be back here on another show. I know we did some NBA conversation last week. Somebody reached out to me and said that they wanted to talk a little bit more about NFL main slates, see how we're using Saber with the Run Pure content for those. So excited to get into that a little bit here today. I've got I realized too we've got a couple new smaller features as well that went live in this past week. So maybe get an opportunity to show some of those off here today as well.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, you guys are always like making updates and everything. So, I mean, it's very exciting. I think it's been, performance-wise, on my end, at least, has been very good.
Yeah. And
another thing, too, out there. So I know there have been times where we've had some issues right up to lock with our website, too much traffic coming in. We are. So, like, I believe we've identified the issue, and we're making some significant upgrades to the server, to the platform. I'm not going to sit here and try to act like I understand that stuff because I don't, Jordan, but I'm really excited. So these things are this is going down on Tuesday. I think Monday night after the game, slates lock, everything. The web people are getting in there. They're going to do their thing. And then Tuesday we'll relaunch and usually Tuesdays are kind of a lighter day, depending on what's going on in the NBA. So it should be a perfect time. We should, hopefully after that point, we have no issues up to lock. That, fingers crossed. That is the ultimate goal. But Jordan, let's dive in, man.
Yeah.
So we're covering the main slate this week. Exactly like you said it. We're going to show you how to use Saber, obviously, for the main slate, but then we're going to highlight a few content pieces. Now it's early. Keep in mind, it's very early. We do have a few content pieces up, though, right now. And we're just going to walk through, do a screen share, and show everyone how to use it. If you haven't yet, first, before we dive in, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a lot over here at Run Pure Sports. So if you can now see my screen, this is the console that obviously everyone should be very familiar with. We're doing the main slate, 10 games this week. It's actually pretty interesting. We only have 2 games in the afternoon window. So we are heavily, most of the games are going to be early on. So, from a late swap or just, roster construction standpoint, maybe it brings some interesting stuff into it. But Jordan, like we always do, let's run our base cash build. Do you want to do cash or should we do a tournament-based build?
Yeah, I mean, I think running both makes sense. I think you get 2 different things out of it. The cash build's good. I think you get an idea of just what the optimals are looking like, what the projections say, what a lot of people, some of the most popular plays are going to be. And then when you run the GPP mode, I think this is a pretty cool thing about Sabersim that a lot of people don't really realize. It's going to build you lineups that are basically viable for tournaments just with the default settings that we've got in there. So it'll start taking into account correlation and ownership, and it'll kind of start to get you an idea of like maybe what are some particular tournament based angles to take on this slate this particular week. So I think running both of these builds early on can be just a good way to get an idea of how things are looking here. So
yeah, very good. So this is using the cash settings. You can sort it by Saber score. You can sort it since it's cash. I'll look at projected score. You can see no change there. So I ran this yesterday, just kind of seeing where the slate was at. I thought it was pretty interesting. Double tight end, and then obviously isolating 2 good running backs. Naked Josh Allen. So I mean, no real correlation. Just it feels like a cash build. You're trying to plug in the best value or players that are mispriced with the best floor ceiling combination that you can to win your cash games. So, I mean, I thought this, I wasn't too surprised. Obviously things could change, news hits and everything. Do you have any thoughts initially on the cash setting build?
Yeah, I like to just get an idea kind of what look like they're going to be the cash game locks. What are the guys that are probably going to be very heavily owned in tournaments? Just looking at what are the guys popping up the most, right? Like Joe Mixon, Tyler Higbee showing up here, Ramondre Stevenson in 95%, and then Sun God showing up in 3/4 of our top cash optimals here. I think that starts to kind of build out a little bit of a core of like these are the guys that are going to show up a ton in the cash builds. They're going to be showing up a lot in tournaments, and your pivots can be around that. Like how are you navigating those players? If you're using those players in your tournament lineups, are you adding in some lower owned plays to combine there? Just gives you an idea of how things are looking with the constructions. I mean, I think it's interesting. You do see Josh Allen showing up in the top overall cash optimal, but he's only showing up in the 45% of the optimals overall. Aaron Rodgers picking up a lot of steam there as well. Then a little bit of Geno and Mariota here. So I think there probably won't be one super chalky stack this week, I think is maybe one thing that I'm kind of getting from there. I just like to run this, get an idea of like what I think the field is going to do.
Yeah, so I highlighted the Aaron Rodgers ones, and I was actually kind of surprised because if I'm playing Rodgers, I have to pair him. And I'm not a cash player at all, but I would think the optimal path that leads me to believe that, Josh Allen's likely to be that cash optimal
I think so,
quarterback. But so let's redo this because I want to see one thing. Now so this is the cash settings. It's always, we talk about it each and every week. It's always just good, get an idea, get a feel for the slate, get an idea of where, the field might be on certain plays. So let's go back. Now let's run a tournament setting build. Walk me through this. What would you put in here?
Yeah, so I think the best thing to do here is to build for the contest that you're, hypothetically trying to build for.
So let's do the Millie Maker.
Perfect. Yeah. So let's set the entrance and the entry limit to 150 there, and toggle that manual mode on just so the folks can see kind of what's going on behind the scenes here. So as we're changing those drop downs, the entry limit, the entrance, we're adjusting these different factors of the things that you need to be successful in tournaments. So correlation, ownership, and the diversity is changing based on the contest we've identified here. So this is a big, Millie Maker type contest. We're going to be a little more aggressive with these things. We want a little bit more ownership fade. We want a little bit more diversity. And now these are going to be tournament ready lineups. So yeah, I would say let's build it. Let's see what we're getting here. And again, this is just to give us now an idea of, what are some angles that we can play on this slate? What are some stacks that we can get? What are some different what are some ways to fade ownership a little bit on a lineup level, and start looking at how these are coming together here?
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how much different, because we haven't made any adjustments to projections. We're just using what's I think that I had it set to say, actually I'd have to go back and look. Sometimes I say, yeah, I think it's Saber. We're using Saber projections. So sometimes I'll blend it. So, okay, here we go. Obviously the first build here looks significantly different from, obviously our cash, the cash build that we were doing. We have our quarterback plus, 2 receivers there, and running it back with no one. I mean, that's perfectly fine. Especially when you're talking about Geno Smith to Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Now, when you're looking at the tournament one, kind of what type of information are you looking at when you're running this base build?
Yeah, so I typically, on the left-hand side where you see like stack types or players, team stacks, game stacks, stack types, I like to typically look like right to left. So I'll first kind of go through and just kind of get an idea like what stacks am I getting? Do these stacks look good? If there's some QB plus 3s, which is a pretty big stack, or no QB stacks, which is obviously a very small stack, I kind of like to just get an idea of like, what's going on here? Does that lineup make sense? Does it make sense to stack 3 this week? Does it make sense? I mean, you can see here, we're getting some no QB stacks, but they're Josh Allen builds. Maybe that's actually a viable path here. I'll like to look a little bit at my actual team stacks I'm getting myself and see just like, what are my biggest stacks? Like what teams am I stacking up? And then individual player exposures. Again, just trying to get an idea of like, what does Saber think is the path here for this week? And what do I want to start adding in to make some changes?
Yeah, I like that. I like the natural core. So like what I'm looking for is kind of, and this is, keep in mind, it's a base build. Mm-hmm. We're going to add what we call bias to it. And we're going to show you how, at least I do that using my NFL heat map that we put out each and every week. But what I like to see here is I really like the QB plus 1, QB plus 2 with a run back. These QB plus 3. I mean, it really depends. I mean, a Bengals onslaught. I could see, we've seen these Bengals onslaught where Joe Burrow locks in, onto his guys, T. Higgins, Chase obviously out, but then Mixon, I could definitely get on. I think maybe plus 3 might be a little much, but I don't hate it depending on what team it is. So I just like to look at this base build and I like to see the natural correlation that we're already getting without even putting any rules in. So I'm going to bring up my heat map. Let's go back. And let's first. All right. So let me pull this up. I'll switch over here. So this is the so I started doing these heat maps for NBA, and we went over that last week. Mm-hmm. We developed this concept for NFL for people that are more visual, like to look at things from a big picture standpoint. And we have the NFL DraftKings heat map that I manage, and we have a FanDuel one that Glock manages. And this is complete on Saturdays typically. So I got a rough draft started so that we could use it for this show. I have a pretty good idea of where I want to go this week, Jordan, but I will have to say, this isn't like final and official. When it is final and official, you'll see this pending thing will turn to green and it'll say finished with my rules and notes put in here, which is typically Sunday morning before the Off the Chalk show, or late Saturday night once we have a lot of the information in as far as injuries and players go. So what everyone's looking at here, let me first go to the actual heat map portion and what I'm trying to do here. So one, I think this tool is good for multi-entry players, but if you're a single entry 3 max, maybe you build 10 to 20 lineups, you can still use this. I think it's a good tool. What I'm trying to do is identify the best primary stacks for us to target. Mm-hmm. And I mean, these aren't, so like I have a bunch highlighted. that doesn't mean I am trying to target all of these. Where you can find the actual stacks that I'm trying to target up here in this top section. Usually it's 3, sometimes 4 max primary stacks is what I'm looking at. And a primary stack is your quarterback plus at least one playmaker. So you'll see here Aaron Rodgers to Aaron Jones or Dobbs. Lazard, I don't have a tag on him yet. I think he's questionable. So we just got to wait for his status. Obviously, there's a lot of injury news that I'm not even up to date with yet. But on Friday, I do a clean refresh of all this. And then obviously Tonyan. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying we can easily play Rodgers plus one of these playmakers. I will typically cap it at 2. There are certain situations where I think 3 is fine. I think Marcus Mariota is another interesting spot that I want to target. My main reasoning for that is I think Austin Eckler, like Jordan, we were talking about before the show started, I think he's an absolute lock. I think 8,800 price tag is a big price tag for Austin Eckler. I think that will cap his ownership some. There's so many things that we can do with this stack too. When you think of just natural correlation in stacking, we can go Mariota to London and Pitts, run it back with Eckler. We have a nice QB +2 with 1 run back. And I'm probably capping this at a QB 2 and running it back with 2. I don't want anything larger than that. Tua to obviously Hill and Waddle, with Mooney as the main run back there. Joe Burrow, the Bengals, in a nice bounce back spot here against the Panthers. With Burrow stacks, so here's how I typically do it. I have a rule in there where it's typically Higgins or Chase. We obviously don't have Chase, but I'm actually fine pairing Joe Mixon in there. Just with what we typically see from the Bengals, it's like Joey B typically locks in on one hit of his stud receivers. And then, it seems like Joe Mixon is typically the other guy. So how I like to do it this week is the same. And a lot of it has to do with price too. I think Joe Burrow's price is very attractive. I think Joe Mixon's price, we saw him in the cash optimal, as we see each and every week. Cash plays can be tournament plays too. It's just what you do with those plays. So this is a rough overview of what the heat map's looking like. My last thing too, just to explain this, this other color here, the pink color secondary stack, we're trying to, isolate different spots where we could have nice secondary stacks. Like, let's just say we are on a Rodgers to Tonyan and Aaron Jones. Well, maybe a secondary stack is Darnell Mooney and Tyreek Hill. Just as an example, a wide receiver 1 versus the opposing wide receiver 1. So that's what I'm trying to do with the different colors here on the heat map. So let's go to this top section and let's start building out some rules. And I'm going to have you help to guide me with these rules. Let's start with, all right, so we know my top section here is Rodgers plus 2 at most of his playmakers. And we want to isolate, if those 2 guys are in there, we want the rule to stay, we're bringing it back with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Are you on board with that one?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, let's walk me through how you would set this up.
Okay, so first things first. So I want to start kind of bigger picture here. And I think what you'll find a lot of times, the way I like to use the app here is I'll make a couple changes and just kind of build and see how that looks and see how things are fitting together and then come back. So I think actually the first thing we should do here is, why don't we actually set your QB player pool to match up to the teams that you actually want to stack here? I think that's a good place to start. We can just remove all the QBs from the pool and just check in the guys that you actually want to see showing up in your lineups. And this is essentially like, what stacks do you want to play? And this will just make sure right off the bat, we're only getting the stacks that we want to get to here.
What was the last one? Oh yeah, Joe. No, we got Burrow. Who am I missing? Mariota.
Cool.
All right, we got our 4 in there. Perfect.
Okay, so now we want to say, so remind me of the rule that you're trying to do here again.
The first rule is, and we could set this for any of them, but I want at most 2 of the playmakers with Rodgers, and then we want our run back to be Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay.
Trying to think. So we'll keep it. Yeah, we'll keep it. Yeah, Amon-Ra is the guy. I mean, you could obviously make the case to running back with many different options here. The running game's kind of a mess. I feel the best run back is Amon-Ra. So that's the rule that I really like there.
Okay, so let's do this first. So let's go over to our stack types tab here.
Okay.
And I think we should do the same thing we just did here. So let's
eliminate them all
of these.
Uncheck them all. Okay.
And then go figure out what stacks we want to actually add in. And
So-
what this is here, just so people that maybe don't know, it's QB plus number of pass catchers on the same team, and then that line, and then number of pass catchers on the opposing team. Or skill position players on the opposing team. So yeah, whatever kind of stacks you want here. And this is for across all of your lineups.
Yeah. So let me pull this heat map back up. So I'm really, this is kind of like, when I'm building this out, and if you're looking at this top section of the heat map, can I get things to fit perfectly? No, but it's going to match up. What I'm doing is going to match up and align pretty closely to what you're seeing here. So in these stacks, I have it isolated to where, like in the 201, Mooney's my favorite. DJ Moore is my favorite down here. There's only one where I'm fine with 2. So I think for now, what I'm going to do is this QB 2+2. I'm just going to check it. Cool. We don't want any of those. We like the QB 1. We like the QB 1. Bring it back with 2. Would you leave this unchecked? QB +1.
It's up to you. If you want run backs in every lineup, I think it makes sense to have them in there here. So this looks like a pretty good. This is pretty close to like what I would do most slates. I like the QB +2s. I don't know if I'm necessarily forcing a run back. I would say let's turn the QB +2 back on. With run back.
Yep.
I like that stack as well. Yeah.
And then let's look at real quick the secondary stack section. This is always a little bit tougher to get right, but because it's like when I put here the secondary stack, I'm not saying we're only using Mixon or T. Higgins and running it back with DJ Moore there in my this section right here. I can use any of these secondary stacks with any of these primary stacks, if that makes sense. These are just my preferred. If I'm playing T. Higgins or Joe Mixon, DJ Moore, obviously the guy that we're looking at. Same with Hill, Waddle, Mooney is the other guy. So when we're looking at secondary stacks, I think we do just the same thing that we just did. Uncheck this, so we know we want 1-1. Obviously, we want. Try to think. Is there any others that you would 2-1?
2-1. Yeah, I think 2-1 makes some sense based on the way that the heat map set up, and maybe even you uncheck 2, or you check 2-2 just in case. Like I don't.
Oh, 2-2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we'll get many of those, but just in case here.
So we haven't actually set any rules. We haven't
set any rules.
Yeah, we've just changed a few things in here. I like it. All right. So now what's next?
So if it was me and I was actually going through and doing my process here, I would run a build and just kind of see where we're at, and just see how the lineups are looking. The other thing that can be helpful about doing this on occasion throughout your process here is if you accidentally mess something up, if you run builds after making smaller adjustments, when you mess something up. I see sometimes people will do their whole process. They'll change the player pool. They'll set this, they'll set that, they'll set 10 different rules, and then they run the build and it doesn't work. And now because they did all that stuff, they can't figure out exactly what part caused the problem. So I think we should run a build, see how the lineups are looking, and just make sure we're on the right track.
Should we do the same, the milli settings?
Yeah, that's perfect. And for now, since we're mostly just trying to make sure we're on the right track here, I don't think we need to worry too much about these. So let's just see how things are looking here. This will also give us an idea too. We set 4 quarterbacks that we want to use here. If we're only getting exposure to 3 of them, we know that we're probably going to need to make an adjustment to some projections or some exposures or something like that. So I think this is a useful step to just see how we're doing.
Yeah, I like this. All right, here we go. So just quickly glancing over, hold on. Sorry, my screen is a little bit, it's zoomed in, so it's a little bit tall. All right, there we go. Marcus Mariota, 37%, Rodgers, 33%, Tua, 19%, Joe Burrow, 10%. And so my just real quickly, here was my initial ranges that I wanted, 25 to 30. So actually we're kind of close to we're kind of close to the ownership that I was looking at. So that's actually really interesting without changing too much. So yeah, walk me through this. What you're typically looking at this point in time, Jordan.
Yeah, so I mostly just kind of want to make sure that like things are looking about right, like that the build goes through correctly. We're getting the quarterbacks we expected. I would say let's go take a quick look at the stack types and just see what those are looking like as well here. So we're getting mostly QB +1. Second most stack is QB +2. So maybe good opportunity to kind of decide, do we want to actually play that stack type here? Are we comfortable with that? Or do we want to make sure we have a run back in every build?
Here's where yeah. So I like this, but one thing. So when we redo this, because one of my key plays this week is going to be Austin Eckler. So it's interesting that the QB +2 actually kind of makes sense from a price standpoint. Is the Pitts to London, just so easy to fit into your build. So and actually, thinking through it, is there? I'll save that question for when we get a change, because I was going to ask it initially what I wanted was Eckler in every single, if I have a Mariota plus Drake to, plus Pitts, we have to get Eckler back. But, maybe we don't. Maybe we do want some of these QB +2s. Maybe we don't want Eckler in all of them. So I was going to ask if there's a way to put to have him in there as a rule, but have a cap on his ownership, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, we can definitely do that. So yeah, I think now is a good opportunity. And this is the kind of thing you want to be doing, right? Going through, looking at your exposures, looking at your lineups, and think, is this what I was looking for? Or do I still need to add a little bit more? There's still some changes I need to make. Do I need to go back and set some rules and things like that? So yeah, I mean, I think this is a good opportunity to go back, and now we can kind of start adding in some of these rules here.
Yeah, but on the surface, I do like how these builds are looking. Obviously, they are bringing in the players that we are interested in. We got our main stacks and everything. So yeah, let's do that. Let's go back to our home. Let's bring up the heat map, and we'll add in a few things. So key play section. So if you're using this piece of content, this is generally final on Sunday morning, because these are going to be the players that I'm most overweight on in multi-entry formats. So right now, again, this is an early look, but I see myself trying to get overweight on Austin Eckler. Really like Joe Mixon. He seems like I know he's going to be popular, but look, popular plays continue to smash. Joe Mixon's underpriced. I think he's going to end up being a key play for me at the running back position. Amon-Ra St. Brown and then Terry McLaurin are two receivers that I see myself getting over on. So let's start adding in, because I don't actually, going back to it, did you see any of Austin Eckler in any of the? Yeah,
there were some. He was showing up. He wasn't used in the running back spot, but he was in the flex spot for quite a few of those Mariota stacks.
Okay.
But I think so. What I would do with those key plays is, since we just know that these are guys we want to be getting a lot of in our lineups, I would maybe think about just giving them a projection boost right off the bat. Like maybe saying, 10-20% boost, depending on their original projection. But it's just going to be a signal to Sabersim that, hey, we like these guys more than the projections indicate, and we want to get some exposure to these guys.
And this on yesterday's show, I was talking about it. Austin Eckler at that price point, you're going to have to make some sort of manual adjustment, I think, to his projection just to hit your builds. So we wanted to do that for Eckler. We wanted to get Joe Mixon already has a really
already has a pretty high projection. Yeah. So I think maybe just
a little boost. And then our receivers, we liked let's see, it was Amon-Ra, Sun God. So let's give him, let's just say 19.8. And then it was McLaurin. So yeah, let's give him a little bump as well. All right.
Cool.
Any other rules that we should consider adding in?
So walk me through the main stacks on the heat map again here. So so we're basically saying, so if we use Rodgers, we have to use, in this case, it would be at least 2 of the pass catchers and then always have Amon-Ra on the run back? Is that the idea here, or walk me through that again?
Yeah. We want, so this first section are the plays I like the most. So like I like Rodgers plus his tight end, or Aaron Jones there. And then the run back, my favorite run back, Amon-Ra. So I want Amon-Ra to be the run back piece in my QB 2-1s, for example. Down here, Mariota, Pitts, London. I really like how that looks. I want Eckler to be the primary guy. I put Bandy in there just because I think he was a value piece that was popping, and he's cheap. And so I thought maybe in QB2s and running it back with 2, he might be an interesting piece there that allows us to get another higher price guy. And then Tua, Hill, Waddle is the obvious stack there, then bringing it back with Mooney. And then DJ Moore. I mean, for Joe Burrow, like, we need, the thing about Bengals stacks, I mean, one, like, I see this game playing 2 different ways. I think it could be really ugly, and one we want to be under on, or I think Joe Burrow gets it together, and I mean, they don't have Chase. It's a huge hit, but another week of practice, these guys get it going, and we just see the Bengals do what we're used to them seeing, like put up a big numbers. So if we, in that scenario though, I do think we want DJ Moore as the primary run back.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's go back to Saber here. Let's go back to those stack types, and let's just uncheck. First of all, let's uncheck QB plus 2, because we know that we want to run it back here in all these lineups. So let's get rid of the QB plus 2 there. And then let's open up the lineup rules here on the right side here, and make, I think the best way to do this is maybe a couple automatic rules. We'll try this here. So add new rule, and let's make this a group.
Okay.
And it's an automatic.
All right.
And let's do if, and we'll say, at least. So, okay. I'm trying to think about the right way to do this here. We might need to make 2 of these here. Let's do if at least 1 primary player is used, and group by, okay, that's right. And then uncheck everything but the quarterback.
Okay.
And then say, then we're going to use at least 2 secondary players on the same team.
Okay.
And then uncheck, so running back, wide receiver, tight end here. And then let's save this. When you click save rule, let's save this as manual. So save as 4 manual rules.
All right.
Okay, cool. So we'll have to scroll down here a little bit to find that. There it is. And then now let's expand this here. And then we can go in and just check that these are the right guys are showing up here. So let's open up the Mariota rule here. Okay. And it's going to require a little bit of cleanup here, but basically we want to make sure that this is pairing Mariota with the right guys that we have in our stack. So I think in this case, it's just London and Pitts, right? So we can exclude all those other guys here.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, we'll keep Bird in there. He's been okay. The running backs, Williams, and maybe we didn't need running back in this particular case here, but I mean, no, we did for the Green Bay ones. So I think this is
Jones.
fine.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. So we'll leave those 3. All right. Then save rule.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I think that's perfect.
Look at
and
this.
Then we'll do this here for the other teams.
I mean, so Trent, we're not Morgan. We'll keep Hurst in there. Mike Thomas, no. We're not playing P. Ryan. Maybe if it was a showdown slate. There we go. All right, perfect. And then let's see. It's basically just cleaning all these up, getting rid of anyone that's not like relevant or that we're just never playing, right?
Right.
Saku, leave him in there. There. Perfect. And then Rodgers. Let's see, we had Dubs in there. Lazard. Do you know Lazard's status?
I don't know. I haven't looked too much at the main slate yet here this week. But we might as well leave him in there. And if he's questionable now, we might as well include him.
I'm gonna leave my boy Samori Toure in there, Nebraska guy. I don't think he's gonna hit any lineups, but just for fun, we'll leave him in there. All right,
had a big play on the showdown. So,
oh yeah, that's right. We got our rules. Any other rules? Are we good?
So if we want to force that run back in here now, we should make one more.
But won't we naturally we want a specific run back,
so
right?
we will. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, if we want the specific run back.
Couldn't we try this as what? So let's go to our game. What if we just bump the projection up on, the player we're looking at running back?
On the run back, that would work here as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So we already did that with Amon-Ra. So I think
we did that with
there.
Eckler as well.
We did that with Eckler. Yep. Who's the other one? No, we did that. It would be
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore. All right, perfect. So let's bump him up a little bit. And then
it's worth noting
Mooney?
too, like Mooney was the other one. Yeah, we need to give him a bump here.
Okay.
It's worth noting too, like if you set a rule, you are getting that 100% of the time. So if you're like, if you're coming at this from, in most of my Tua stacks, I want to have Mooney, but not all, then you don't want to set a rule for that, because setting the rule makes it show up in 100% of your lineups here. So now let's go ahead and uncheck
tight end and the flex too, just because I don't want any double tight end builds.
Cool.
So let's do this.
See what we're getting here.
I might be able to be done with my NFL work early this week, Jordan, depending on what comes up.
Yeah.
I do like these stacks, how they're looking.
Well, and it's good too. You spend a little bit of time doing this ahead of time before the week starts. And then some of that work you have to redo based on news that's changing, but maybe your overall core foundation here is kind of set here on a Wednesday. Right off the bat, these are definitely looking a little bit closer to what we were trying to get to here.
Yeah, I like that. You can see here, Eckler, 53%. Should definitely easily be overweight the field.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Mixon, 40%. I think that's fine. Amon-Ra, 49%. And then, these are going to obviously correlate with the stacks that we're on. Let's look at our quarterbacks. We're a little bit outside of our parameter. Let's see, Mariota, 35%. So, here's kind of what I would do, Jordan. At this point, one, I would have a pool size of 1,500. I did 500 just to speed it up. But once we're to this point, now I would start making my adjustments in this, third section. So what I would do is, let's cap Mariota at 35.
And I want to point out, so we did make a change here, and so you just saw it. So that's perfect. So we did make a change here now. So by default, the exposures do not automatically update. So if you want them to go back to the old way here, you can just click this A with the circle around it next to that red refresh icon.
Yep.
That will basically make it be like it used to be. What we were finding though is that for people that are making a bunch of different changes to exposure, it was really annoying having to make a change, wait for it to update, make a change, wait for it to update. So now you can make all your changes and just click apply once, or if you want to, just turn that auto apply exposure back on. So
gotcha. So let's go and look. Let's just look at a few of these builds. Really curious to see these Mariota builds. Let's see. What was I looking at?
Honestly, AP, if you're down, I think we should run one more. I think we should run 1,500 lineups, because there's something I want to show as well that works a little bit better when we have the full 1,500 to work with.
So the one thing I wanted to see was, so in our Mariota builds, so I have those highlighted. I wanted to see how much Eckler, because I know that I'm getting, that I'm getting London and Pitts in there. We have 73% Eckler in there, which is perfect, which means we have a good amount of shares where it's just Mariota and, Eckler isn't the run back, which is exactly what we want. And just looking at some of these builds, they look nice. So, all right, should I go back and run 1,500?
Yeah, let's run one more. Let's run one at 1,500. I have two things I want to show off in that build screen that are newer features that I think are just really cool. And then I also see there are some questions in the YouTube chat as well that I want to get to. I do not have the chat up just to try and keep my connection as solid as possible. I'm going to keep the settings the exact same. We're going to run 1,500, and it shouldn't take. It shouldn't take too long. Yeah, we've done quite a bit of work to speed this up here. Even with rules and things like that, it should be once it gets past this analyzing sim stage here, the build should go pretty quick. So we'll just give it a second to run here.
This week does seem like a really good MME type week. Like I was saying on the show yesterday, I don't multi-entry every week. I do when I like the slate, like when I can isolate 4 spots that I really like. Those are going to be weeks where I'm I have a lot more interest in multi-entering. Outside of that, like I'm completely fine building like 3 to 12 lineups and targeting and hammering all of the 3 max tournaments. Like DraftKings has a lot of like 153 max. So my strategy kind of differs, but this is leaning towards a week where I'm probably going to end up MMEing, looking at like the milli and using this same process that we're using right now. So we got 1,500 built in our pool.
Yeah.
Walk me through what we should be looking at, Jordan.
Okay. So real quick, just so the demonstration here, change your number of lineups at the top to like 20 or something. It'll just make what I'm going to show easier here.
Okay. 20. Yep. All right.
Yeah. 20 will work here. Okay. So this min uniques players is a new field right next to that lineups at the top here. This is a change. This is now after the build. This used to be before the build. And this is probably personally one of my favorite simpler features we have added recently. This is basically going to go through and make sure how many unique players do you need to have between the actual lineups you're playing in your contest here. So if you increase that, I would say, let's increase that to like 4.
Okay.
And give that a second to update. And what this is going to do is it's going to say, okay, here's the best 20 lineups sorted by Saber score, following all the rules that you set, where every lineup has at least 4 players different than one another. And if you scroll all the way down on your lineup side now.
Okay.
So basically all the way down to your your 20th lineup, which is why I wanted to change this to 20. So you see basically we can get 4 unique players in every single lineup by basically going down to the 53rd ranked lineup out of 1,500. And you can increase that min uniques further. Basically what this is doing is you're getting diversity into your lineup pool from your lineup pool that's all built the way you wanted here, without having to extend yourself too deep into your pool. Now, the more lineups you're playing, if we were playing 150, we might not have been able to get 4 min uniques. Maybe we have to stay at like 2 or 3. But there's a question in chat from Bryson here. He said, how can we be more granular within our main stacks to make sure we're not getting the same one-offs and whatnot in our lineups? For example, he said he's getting 50% Drake London with all of his Tua stacks. This is basically, I think, the best way to do this is to increase the number of min uniques that you have in between your lineups, which is going to make it that when you're using similar combinations of players in your lineups, the other players in those lineups need to be a little bit more different. And exactly as you just showed here, this integrates naturally with exposures. So you can edit exposures, still keep your min uniques. It's really an awesome feature. I've been using it every single time I use Sabersim.
Really? So what? All right. So I have not used this at all. So we're pulling. All right. So this is basically just going to pull in ranks 1 through 20, right?
1 through 20 following your exposure requests. So I think you've set a couple exposures that you already wanted here. So it's going to be basically your top 20 sorted by Saber score following all of your requested exposures.
Put 3.
So then if you increase that to 3, now it's your top 20 following all your exposures where every lineup. So you can see there's actually a jump there. So we use lineup 1.
Yep.
Then we use lineup 4. And that's because lineups 2 or 3 don't qualify to be in this lineup set based on your exposures or your min uniques.
So
then
that's really
the next cost overall lineup.
That's really interesting. That's one I'm gonna have to play with in here. So this just like, are you using this typically in 150, or do you think it's a good strategy to use in like those 20 max
I think
tournaments?
The less lineups you're playing, the more you should use this, because you want to. When you're playing 150 lineups, just because of the sheer number of lineups you're playing, you're getting an opportunity to spread out quite a bit and get to a lot of different angles. But if you're only playing 20 or 3 lineups or 5 lineups, like you might as well try to diversify those lineups as much as possible, right? You don't need to come first, second, third, fourth, and fifth in a contest. You're trying to put one lineup in and take first place down, or you know what I'm saying? Like you don't need to take unnecessary risk there. So
I think this is really interesting for like 3 max type players too.
Absolutely.
Like if you're in a 3 max, so talk to me about the number you're typically using? Are you typically using 4? Is there
So no,
is there
it
a magic
depends.
number with this, or
It depends a lot. So put it at like 7.
okay?
Just so I can show you what this looks like. So if we change this to 7, so we can't even get 7, right? We're not even there aren't okay, wait, sorry. Go back to the build there. So there aren't even 7, there aren't even 20 lineups where we can get 7 min uniques here. So now switch back to 6 here.
6. Okay.
Yep. Okay. So now on your lineup side, scroll all the way down again. And you can use that scroll bar there on the right-hand side, which, there you go. Okay. So to get 6 min uniques across 20 lineups, we have to get all the way to lineup 649 out of 1,500, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that this is a bad lineup, but we're
I mean, it fits our
ourselves.
requirements.
It fits our requirements, yeah, and it's fine. I think for me, typically, if I'm finding that to get everything I want with mid uniques and exposures, I have to extend past like the first half of lineups in my pool. That's when I kind of might walk back some of the min uniques. So I'm basically trying to make, if I could put it down in a basic rule, I want min uniques to be as high as possible, where my last lineup that I'm entering is no more than like 50% of the way through my entire pool, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it really does. I mean, this looks like a Millie Maker lineup if I've ever seen one. So I mean, it's not like, I get what you're saying. These are bad. These fit the rules that we set. So it's not a bad lineup. It's, if anything, it's gonna, it's gonna make you very unique and diversified. So that's really interesting. This is something I'm definitely gonna have to play around with. It's like, I've never used that. I've never even used it. Like, I've seen it, Jordan, like when we were building before. Considered using it.
Yeah, I think I lost you for a second there.
Yeah, sorry. I got back.
I thought it might have been on my end. Yeah, no, I heard you. Yeah, and so I never used it when it was in the build settings either, because I thought it was not very good when it was in the build settings, to be honest. Like, you don't want to force that diversity into your entire pool. All you want to do is just make sure you're playing a diverse set of lineups from that pool. So I think anyone watching, highly recommend it. At least go play with it, see the impact it has on your exposures, on your lineup pool. I think it's basically it's spreading out your risk and while maintaining the same amount of upside you had before. So I have one other feature I'd love to show real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead
if we have time. So somebody else also asked, should I sort by Saber score or projected score? There is also a new way to sort your lineups here that we just added, that percentile drop down. These are going to be the lineup percentiles here. So set that to 99th here real quick.
Okay.
So what this is going to do is this is going to sort your lineups from top to bottom based on the highest 99th percentile outcome for the lineup in The Sims. And you can actually see those 99th percentiles. They're at the bottom right next to under like projected score for that lineup.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yep, right here.
220.6. Yep, exactly. Yep. So this lineup has the highest 99th percentile outcome of all the lineups in your pool. This lineup's top 1% outcome is the highest in the whole pool here. So this isn't necessary. I don't want to say that this is better than Saber score. I think Saber score is still really useful because it's going to take into account things like ownership and correlation and things like that. But if you're looking for just raw high scoring upside, this can kind of be a cool new way of sorting your lineups because it basically looks at the full range of outcomes of what's possible on the slate and tells you, hey, this lineup 1% of the time, this lineup scores 220. And that might be what you need to take down the Millie this week, right? You get to kind of visualize what those upside scores look like. So these are really cool. I think these can be kind of fun to play with as well. This works. The other thing that's really useful about this is this.
I like this builder right here too.
Yeah, and it takes into account your custom projections. So like this is accounting for the fact that you boosted Eckler and Moore and Mooney and all these guys and saying, with your adjustments, this is the 99th percentile outcome for this lineup. So super excited about this as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting too for NBA. Yeah. Just looking at different, like, what I imagine, like where you'd use that if you were playing the $15 like 100K to first, where a lot of entries. If you sort by that, I imagine you're going to get a lot of balanced builds, which you're trying to capture the upside from
Right.
a lot of mid-range players. And that's the type of build that usually it takes to win a large field tournament like that versus like, a 1,000 entry tournament, higher dollar buy-in. Usually you're going to have your studs mixed in, and you can take, a lower score from kind of a punt value play to make those work. So that's really interesting. No, I like that. That's so when did you guys update that?
Yeah, so those are both new as of this past week. I can't remember. Min Uniques might have been in there the week prior, but both of these are pretty much new. So yeah,
sorting
you
it by
25th percentile
floor. Is that right? Or
Yep.
or what is? Okay, gotcha.
Yep. So basically what that is, the 25th percentile means that lineup is going to score more than that number 75% of the time. So in this case,
Gotcha.
lineup 1 here scores more than 131.8 75% of the time. It also means that lineup scores less than 131.8 25% of the time. So, if at the end of the week that lineup has a bad week, it scores 100 points, that's going to happen 25% of the time, right? So it's useful, I think, also to just kind of set expectations of like what you're rooting for to happen here.
That's really cool. That's another feature that I'm going to have to play around with. I'm going to play around with that too in the NBA. I think that's going to be really
awesome.
So that's this. You can do this with NBA, right? I'm not getting ahead of myself.
No,
okay,
it works for all sports. It works for everything. Anything that we have our Sims for, obviously. So I think that can be useful. I do want to address Darren. Darren asked what should he use to sort. I would say if you are unsure, Saber Score is probably still the best default option, just because it takes into account all the important parts of what you need to take down a GPP. But I would at least experiment with those percentiles and kind of see what they're looking like and what you think. And what AP is doing here is perfect also as well. Like, we're at this final phase with our lineups, time to make adjustments to those exposures and fine tune there.
So here's what I like too all right. So DraftKings has a really nice $4 20 max that you can do each and every week. I think it's 100K up top. I know it's a big tournament, but one, if you're multi-entering, I think that's a tournament that you should be getting into each and every week, depending on what your bankroll is. But it, my connect, did I go down?
We got you back. Yeah.
Oh,
it was just for a second.
Yeah. So anyways, this is something that you could definitely use for that type of tournament. You could use the min uniques there, so you're going to have some nice diversification, and then you still use a big pool size, obviously, to bring all of that in. But then I always make my final adjustments here. We know, and what makes it easy for these simple adjustments, we know that our rules are tied around our quarterbacks, our primary stacks. So just by manually adjusting this to a min 20%, Joe Burrow min 20%, it's going to change everything else, and it's going to bring in our best lineups, basically, following these rules here. So, no, I think this was good. Do you have anything else to add?
No, this one flew by. As we got going, I realized I had so much exciting stuff to talk about here. So, no, I don't have anything else to add. These builds are looking pretty sweet too. I think we did a good job with this one.
Yeah, and I would have brought up more how to use different content pieces that we have behind the scenes, but look, the NFL, we're multiple days away, so our core plays, for example, right here, not up yet, obviously. We have our playbook, we have our player pool section where you'll find the heat map, you'll find Big T's player pool, JSU's player pool, and Mangone's 3-max strategy. So this is all information, all tools, resources that you can use, and you can use it with Saber. Use Saber as your kind of main hub to then adjust everything, optimize it to fit what you want to do after you've digested all of the information. I feel that is the best way to use not only our tools but also Sabersim.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Man, this did fly by. So again, if you haven't yet, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. We have the Primp Factory coming up, Showdown Edition, later on today with JSU, Big T, and Tambo. They're going to be breaking down the Showdown slate tonight. And then, yeah, we're only a 2-game NBA slate, so no NBA shows today, but we will have playbooks up, core plays, everything will be up for that. And then we have a jam-packed weekend where we have a lot of content, a lot of sports to tackle. I'm really excited about this week, Jordan. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. Give me your one. I know it's early. I know it's early, still work to do yet on the NFL slate, but do you have one take, one play, one thing that you're going to be focused in on for the NFL main slate this week?
Yeah, it is early. I haven't had a chance to go super deep into it. I'll tell you what, I on my very first glance of the slate, and I might be wrong about this, maybe this ends up being chalkier as the week goes on, I'm surprised how little people are talking about the Raiders-Jaguars game. It seems like Etienne is going to be a popular play, but for like a potential shootout environment, I like the passing attacks in both of those games. Those teams haven't really played a lot of good defense recently. I think they've disappointed people recently on the offensive side. So I think people might be a little bit off of like Carr and Trevor Lawrence stacks, but I kind of like that game, especially on a week where there aren't a lot of other games with super high totals. And it just seems like something that might be going a little overlooked. So that might be a particular game environment that I'm looking to target.
Yeah, I actually like that. And I think Trevor Lawrence was kind of just on the outside looking in from my top 4. Doesn't mean that I won't get to him, but I do like that one as well, just because Christian Kirk, I love his price point. And then Josh Jacobs, it just seems like a really good bounce back spot for him as well. So I might be on board with you. And mine is just Austin Eckler, man. I think he's just, he should get some ownership, but just, the Chargers are going to score points, and they're going to do it through Austin Eckler. I feel very confident about that. Yeah, Jordan, this was a ton of fun. Again, if anyone's out there and you want us to cover other stuff, we will do it. We can't read minds, so you have to tell us, shoot Jordan or myself a message. Shoot me a message in Discord. I'll get right back to you if there's anything you want us to cover on this show. But yeah, I'm going to leave it with that. I'm AP. That's Jordan. Simon, get us out of here.